Welcome to the Miracle Plant Podcast, the show that inspires, promotes, and gives you a daily dose of inspiration from the people who have used cannabis to change their lives in extraordinary ways. Here's your host, Justin Benton.
Welcome to the Miracle Plant Podcast. I'm Justin Benton, and I'm here to tell my story and share stories all over the world, how this miracle plant has helped so many families. Our story was, our son was diagnosed on the severe case of the autism spectrum disorder, and we were at a pumpkin patch. There was a tantrum. He was hiding under a bench. We were just like, what are we going to do? He was covering his ears. Fortunately, I had come across some research about this miracle plant. I made a cold extracted oil, gave some orally, and 5 minutes later, he was out playing with other kids and his brother and sister, and that was our eureka moment 5 years ago. Fast forward to now, he's a healthy, happy kid in school, playing in the YMCA basketball. This miracle plant, this story, this incredible gift that we were given, we want to pay it forward and share our story and share other stories all over the world. So this first guest we have has an incredible journey, an incredible story, and so much experience, and has done so many incredible things for so many families all over the world. Kristin Selby Gonzalez, welcome to the show, our first ever Miracle Plant Podcast. How are you?
Yay. Hi, Justin. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, it's a very big deal to have you here. You've done so much for other families in need with autoimmune diseases and the autism spectrum. Tell us a little bit about your journey and what happened when you were introduced to this miracle plant.
Well, yes, I'm so excited to share this story. So my son is 18 years old now. My journey began like many others. We got the diagnosis around 2.5 years of age. We didn't have language. We didn't have eye contact. We did lots of different therapies and diets and biomedical treatments, and the list goes on and on. And, we were moving, we were trekking along and reaching our goals, and it was great. Everything was kind of moving along the way, we had hoped. And then puberty hit. And when puberty hit, it was like our world came tumbling into basically a big, huge mess. And he started having aggression, and he started losing his gains. He went from a 5th grade level at that point, which we were, happy to have him at a 5th grade level, to basically a 1st grade level. He wasn't, talking in the way he was prior. He wasn't looking. And again, our biggest concern was the aggression. It was so scary for us. I think I cried, it felt like, for 2 straight years. And I was running basically for my life. And if you're a parent out there listening and you have a kid with aggression, you totally know what I'm talking about. Here it is, my little boy, and I love him so much, and yet I'm afraid of him. And he is fiercely strong. It's just, I didn't know what to do. And being in the position that I am, I have access to some of the top experts in the world, and nobody knew how to really help me. And we were basically just throwing stuff at him, like trying to see what was going to stick. And then about a year ago, 11 months to a year ago, I talked to you, Justin, and I'd met you via phone before, but when you hear about CBD, you probably have tried it. And if you haven't, you know somebody that has, and you don't really understand there's differences in between each company. And in my mind, I was like, okay, CBD. And here we were giving our son CBD, and yet it was barely doing anything. And I was spending a ton of money and just trying to figure it out. So when you talked to me, Justin, and you were like, oh, ours is different. And I was like, yeah. Like, you were real nice and all. I was like, I didn't really buy it. I was like, okay, but I was desperate. I was totally desperate. And I thought, you know what? It's not going to hurt anything. I'm already getting beat up every day. And we had to remove all the pictures off our walls. And I swear we patched more holes in our walls than anything I could ever have imagined. And so I took the leap of faith, and you sent me a bottle. And it actually sat there, I'll be honest. It sat there for a good 2 weeks, because part of me was still like, okay, here we go again. And finally, I was like, all right, I'm going to try this. And I was amazed. I didn't tell our therapist that we were switching CBDs. And that same day, I'm at the office, and I get a text from our therapist, and she was like, gosh, Jackson's having a great day. And I didn't really ever get those texts anymore. It was always like, we made it through it, or he was really upset, or it was always something negative. It was never positive. And in my heart, I was like, oh my gosh, no way could it be the CBD. Well, fast forward within that same month, I mean, the aggression was basically gone. And I kept having a hard time believing it. I kept waking up every day thinking, okay, it's going to happen. And it didn't. And now, fast forward 11 months, oh my gosh, I have my son back in the sense of, yes, does he have autism? Yes, he has autism. Are we trying to catch up on the developmental delays? Absolutely. Do we still have, immune issues? Yes, we do. However, if you would have asked me a year ago, what's the one thing that I just was praying for every day that I could, think of doing, was I was praying to God to say, please just take this aggression away, please. It's interesting. I'll hear like a boom or something like on a wall, and it's not my son. Usually someone's ran it, we all bump into stuff. And my heart stops because I instantly go back to that, oh my gosh, he's going to hurt something, or he's going to hurt himself, or he's going to hurt us. And then I look at my son, he's laughing, he's playing, his developmental delays, he's constantly climbing that ladder back up. And I now got to just recently go with him on a mini vacation, and he was learning how to paddleboard. That wouldn't even have been in the cards last year. This last weekend, I took him to a drive-through car wash, and most parents would be like, what's the big deal? However, if you're a kiddo like ours, that's a huge deal that, one, you're in a car wash and there's all this sensory integration stuff going on. And then he gets out of the car. Not only does he get out of the car, we're in a pandemic right now, so he wears his mask, which is a huge deal for a lot of our kiddos. He then helps me dry the car, and then he proceeds to vacuum the car all by himself. The life skills are coming back, and he's learned now to take a shower by himself in the last 11 months. He's learning how to cook his own foods. His reading and comprehension is coming back. And the only thing, and I swear, the only thing that we have changed is we took away the other CBD that we were giving, and we have replaced it with the 101 CBD. And I am just a huge, huge believer. I always joke, I'm like, yep, drinking the Kool-Aid, because this is huge. And I was very much the mom that was like, here we go again. And I feel like now all the therapies and all the things we're doing biomedically with him, they can actually start benefiting him in better ways now, because his body is healing. His body is more receptive, and his connection, oh my gosh, his connection is there. And if you have a kid with autism, you probably have heard these stories of that person recovering, or this person no longer having their diagnosis, or maybe this person going into mainstream school. But if you have a severely affected child like I do, just to be able to have, and I always say the other R word, a relationship. I get to have a relationship with my son. And to me, that is the biggest victory and the biggest miracle of all.
That's incredible. Yeah. Just an amazing story. And this is why when we found this miracle plant and it answered our prayers for our son, that we have this moral obligation to pay it forward, share our story, share our products, share the same oils that worked for our family to other families exactly like yours. And again, to speak to the specifics of the miracle plant is how we found that it worked for our son and for your son on the autistic spectrum. It was that we kept it cold extracted. And that might sound like a technical term, but cold extracted is exactly how you make freshly squeezed orange juice in the morning. So there were other products out there, and everybody to each their own and find a product that works for you. And if it's ours at 101hemp.org, great. If it's someone else's, fantastic. But what worked for us is keeping it raw, and which is called CBDA. So there are over 500 different pieces of this plant in the miracle plant, and CBDA is one, and CBGA is another, and there's obviously all the cannabinoids and the flavonoids, which make up things like canaflavin A, which has been proven to be 30 times more effective than aspirin, and then there's terpenes that give off these smells that also are being proven to be therapeutic. And then there's the perfect chain of 21 amino acids and the fatty acids, the omega-3s, the 6s, the 9s, the chlorophyll, just this incredible miracle plant. And so by honoring this plant, we basically created a product that's just like making freshly squeezed orange juice. And that's what worked for us. We had tried other products too, And that's what worked for us. And we've heard great stories from other companies that specific things have worked for epilepsy or seizures. And obviously there's autism. And so, again, that's why we brought this podcast together, because it's all about honoring the plant and keeping and educating the plant and sharing these stories and continuing to just, if there's somebody out there, what would you tell them, Kristin? Because we've all been there, whether it's a family member, whether it's a child or a mother or a brother or a husband or a wife who've gone to the doctor 20 times, or they've tried this and they've tried that. And you were there at your rope end as well. What would you tell them if they're just kind of on the fence thinking, I just don't know if I have the strength to get my hopes up one more time to try one more thing?
Yeah, honestly, I would say it's better to go ahead and try that one more thing, because look at where you're at right now. How I thought about it was like, well, gosh, how much worse can it get, right? Like, I hate to even think that, because it was bad. But I thought, you know what? If I don't try something else, I'm always going to be right here. And I always tell families, I don't have a crystal ball, but I can say this. If you stay in this same spot and you don't move, you're going to be in that same spot no matter what next year. But if you take a leap of faith, you may go 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 4 steps forward, 2 steps back. But no matter what, you're going to constantly do this dance, and and eventually you're going to move forward a little bit more, a little bit more, and a little bit more. And for me, I was exhausted and I was afraid. I was really afraid to try something new, because I thought, oh my gosh, right now, this is, you're in this comfort zone. But you have to get out of that comfort zone, because if you want your kid of any age, and I say that, my son's 18, supposedly he's not supposed to have any gains anymore if you listen to traditional doctors, right? That's hogwash. Like, I don't believe that at all. But, if you want your child to be as successful as they can possibly be and to have that optimal growth, we have to keep taking that leap of faith. We have to keep taking 1 step forward and maybe 2 steps back.
Absolutely. And I agree. And the thing with Kristin, and I'm sure so many other listeners out there can relate, was that we were at our rope's end. And exactly like you said, Kristin, it's like we do the research, we looked at it, and it's like, well, it's a plant. And the side effects so far, it seems like you might maybe take a nap. Okay, perfect, great. A lot better than all the other, those crazy side effects that we see on commercials all the time. So again, my story was I got lucky because I came across some research from Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, and I had no idea what CBD was. This was 5-6 years ago. And I just was like, okay, something else we can try, because we tried everything else. I mean, other than pharmaceutical medication, which was a route we chose not to take, because I was raised holistically and plant-based medicine, and I just didn't trust the science. I didn't trust the single molecule method, and it just hadn't been proven to be that effective. And so I came across the CBD. I was a cannabis farmer. THC was never my thing. I did inhale and exhale in college for sure, and had a good time there with it, but I didn't get the benefits of the life that I wanted from it. So that's where it ended for me. And so I gave up on the plant back then. And then as I started to research and understand that there was more going on in the plant, at first it was sativa versus indica. And then when it came out with CBD, that's when the light bulb went off. And I just sat there and thought, well, if it helped with epilepsy and seizures, as Dr. Raphael Mechoulam showed in the 70s, then it was worth a shot. And we jumped through the hoops and did all the things. And I was like, we tried some products. We didn't get the feedback that we were looking for. We didn't see the results. And then I was like, well, why is everyone heating it? Why is everyone decarboxylating it? Why is everyone isolating it? Why? Because I understand the holistic properties of a whole plant, using a whole plant. And I understand if you want to get high, you need to activate that THCA and burn it and turn it into THC delta 9. But I never understood, why would you want to heat this beautiful plant with 500 properties in a 3-dimensional molecule and turn it into a 2-dimensional molecule and burn off the acidic precursors? Just consume it the way it was grown, the way it was intended for millions of years. And our body communicates perfectly with it the way it was grown. So that was how we got lucky. It was a wing and a prayer. And when our prayers were answered, we literally took it on as our mission to pay it forward by sharing these stories, by sharing our story. And as Kristin talks about, if you reach out to us, we will send a product for free to any family affected by autism, and just about anybody really affected by just about anything that's severe and chronic and complex. If you reach out to us, we have a program where we will get that product in your hands. We have free consultations on our websites that you just pop on and ask all your questions, because there's so much confusion about this miracle plant with so many names. There's so much misinformation out there that's why we decided to start this podcast, share these stories, and just talk about the plant in a real life situation and how it affected them. And could you add anything more to that, Kristin, as far as where you were and maybe your dilemma of crossing that line to trying CBD? And I know that was a way back when, so we're at a much different place now in 2020. But when that first time you were like, should I, shouldn't I? And then when you finally said, I'm going for it.
Yeah, I remember when I very first tried, it was a different brand, but CBD, I was really scared because I didn't really know anything about CBD. I was really uneducated about it. I wasn't the person in college that ever tried any form of CBD or THC. I was really afraid of anything like that. And the only thing I knew was people smoked pot and got high. So that was my kind of understanding of what I thought CBD was. And so I remember when we had a doctor recommend it, and I thought, oh man, I don't know about this. And I was so afraid. And then when I started learning about it, I really felt kind of silly, I'll be honest, because I was like, oh, so wait, the CBD, it doesn't get you high. Only the THC gets you high. And then I had to like really learn about CBD. And even then, until I met you, Justin, I really thought I knew something about, a little bit at least, about CBD, and I really didn't. And what I love what you say, and especially if you're a parent out there that you're kind of nervous and you're like me that didn't really know much about it. I love how Justin says either you can get high or you can get healthy. And when you're looking at CBD, and especially CBDA, that is cold extracted and it's the whole plant and it's really there to get you healthy, that's what was kind of like that kind of aha moment for me, where the light bulb went, maybe these other CBDs that aren't cold extracted, basically they're not having the whole entire plant and all the properties of the plant because they're burning some of those qualities off. Maybe the reason I'm seeing some of this amazing benefits from my son is because maybe he needed all those properties. I don't know what gets burned off. I still don't know that. But I know that when I give this tincture to my son, and we just put it under his tongue and we give it to him, several times a day, and not everybody has to do that, but we do. And he's coming back to life. And that's huge. And I feel like if you're a parent out there and you're on the fence, the best thing for me was thinking, where do I want to be in 10 years from now, or even 5 years from now? And I just knew that I had to get through my fear. And if it didn't work, okay, well, then I'll just be right here again. And here's the great thing as a parent is you go, okay, my son or daughter is doing better now, maybe, or maybe you're at a plateau of some sort, you're a resting spot. But then you go, okay, now what's next? So even for us right now, it's like, okay, he's doing better, the aggression's gone, and now my next step with our doctors are like, okay, now what's next? What's next? Because I want him to have the best life, the most optimal life. I want him to thrive in whatever his amazing abilities are. And if we constantly sit there and go, oh, it's comfortable, or I'm afraid, we're never going to get to that what's next. So I think often it's the parents, when you're kind of doing this fearful dance, is you're comfortable and you have to get out of that comfort zone, and you have to be okay to take that next step, because autism is still so new of all the things that we're learning about. And if we look back at even the 80s and in the 90s, oh my gosh, even when my son was diagnosed in 2004, we have come so far. And so we can't just sit there and be on that plateau comfort resting spot. We really need to go, okay, now what? Now what? And constantly push ourselves, because our kids are counting on us. We are our kids' biggest advocate. We are our kids' biggest cheerleaders, and we know our kids better than anybody else. So if you ever are feeling like that fearful moment, or you don't know what to do, or too much is coming in at you, this is what I always do. I literally just don't do anything for maybe 2 to 3 days, and I just let it sink in. And I get that kind of courage in my gut. And then I really try to listen to my gut. And I swear 9 out of 10 times you already knew that you wanted to try that 3 days ago, but now you can move and take that step with so much more confidence, because you're not alone. What I love about Justin's company is he's absolutely right, man. I felt bad for them because I was emailing them on Saturday, on Friday night, Monday morning at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, I was like, I didn't expect them to answer me at 2 o'clock, but I knew that when they saw the email, they were going to answer me. And I didn't feel alone. I felt like they were out there. They were cheering for me, and they weren't going to let me down because they were believing in what they were selling. And gosh, am I so glad. I'm so happy that I took that leap of faith.
Well, we are too, and it's just been incredible watching your story. We've been there every step of the way with you, and we've partnered actually with an organization that you're the president of, which is the Autism Hope Alliance.org. If you maybe want to talk a little bit more about that and let them know what you're doing there, and especially because this particular episode, obviously we're talking a lot about autism, and you've done so many incredible things. And the reason I decided to partner with you was you guys had just an incredible program of giving products out, and you had just incredible social media and emailing, and you guys were the leaders in the industry for natural foods and supplements and autism. And you were the only ones that I ever came across that actually gave education. And it was a no-brainer for us to work together. So, and that was many years back, but I do want to make sure that people know how to reach you and your organization and all the great things that you guys do as well.
Absolutely. So yeah, we are the Autism Hope Alliance. You can go to autismhopealliance.org. You can sign up for what we call our library card. It's a free membership, and every week we are constantly producing new educational videos. It's free. Our partners like Justin help make sure that we can continue to give that out and make sure that it's there for you guys. And so, like I said, each week there's different topics, and you can watch it or listen to it either on a podcast like this, or you can watch it on our website, which is amazing. We also have what we call our sample program. And so as we get older, we're over 10 years old now, we're constantly evolving to kind of see what works best for our families. And the program that we're doing currently is a sample program. We partner with over 50 partners in the natural products industry that basically, we love them. They're all gluten-free, dairy-free as the foundation of any products we recommend. And we range anywhere from things like CBD to probiotics to enzymes to multivitamins to gluten-free, dairy-free foods and even music therapy. I mean, the list goes on and on. And what's amazing is our partners are so generous. And what they do is each quarter we put out an email, and we're about to do one at the end of this month again. And basically we ask the families, what are you interested in and what categories are you interested in? The families then just check the categories, and then we provide those names to each of the companies that want to provide, whether it be education, a sample of their product, or a deep discount. And it's been a great relationship. It's a great way for us to introduce partners to families that might be benefited by whatever their thing is. And it's great for families to learn about companies that care. And that's really what it's about for us. The Autism Hope Alliance is the first nonprofit to emerge from the natural products industry. And we believe if a kid can feel good, then a child can do good. And we also believe, and I say this often, is that we believe a kiddo at any age, I don't care if they're 2 or 52, we believe there is no window. That we hear that often, right? Like, oh, they have to be improving by the age of 5 or 6 or whatever the new number is today. We don't believe that. We believe that at any age. I've met families that their kids said their first word at 22. And so I get so excited because, like I said earlier, autism still is so new in the way of what we're learning that's helping our families. And so if you're out there and you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, I've tried everything, I promise you haven't. Go to our website and you can download we have a resource booklet that's called Autism What the Experts Know. You can download that for free. I call it the Cliff Note version of a lot of stuff. So each category has 1,500 words or less. You can read about that and then, decide if you want to learn more about that particular subject. And as I said, we have our library and that you can join as well. And so, again, we never know everything, right? And we don't know what we don't know. And so we're constantly learning. So that's what we're here for. We're here to hopefully be a trusted source. And if we can save 100 hours off Google, and I joke about this, but I'm 100% serious, if we can save any time off Google for you guys and help navigate you to where might be another step on your journey, we're here for that.
And I thank you from all the families that you've helped and all the families that you will help. And I've loved being a partner and collaborating with you over these years. And there's so much more that we can do. And just like the miracleplant.org, I mean, just like this podcast, it's just about sharing the stories. As you'll hear from other people, and we'll have a lot more guests to tell their stories, is there was a time when there wasn't a lot of hope. And the name of Kristin's organization is the Autism Hope Alliance. And that's what we're doing here, is giving families, giving mothers and fathers hope that there is hope out there for autism. And there is hope out there for dozens of other health ailments that we're starting to see come to the forefront, because this miracle plant helps our bodies find homeostasis or balance when it's taken in that whole plant formulation, which whole plant is just a whole plant. Some people call it full spectrum, but really whole plant means you use the whole plant, you don't take anything out. And that's where Dr. Raphael Mechoulam and Dr. Ethan Russo have both proven and shown this entourage effect of these synergistic properties of everything in the plant working together like a beautiful symphony. So Kristin, I just wanted to thank you for coming on, sharing your incredible story, being a partner with me over these years and helping us educate these families. Tip of the cap to you. And I could think of no one else I'd rather have on to share such a beautiful journey than you for our first episode of the Miracle Plant podcast. So thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. And again, thank you for all you do for families. I mean, you are just a huge champion and a huge hero in our community. So nobody else I'd rather partner with as well. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, on the way out, I wanted to make sure that as we wrap up, that everybody knows that as we pay it forward here, we're all about giving this product through education, through seeds, through product, is to reach out. And there'll be a link in the show notes, or reach out to the website, themiracleplant.org, and ask us questions and try this product, because really that's why we're here, is to help people understand more about the miracle plant. We'll even send you some seeds in the mail and show you how to grow them on a YouTube channel video, grow them in your backyard, and answer all your questions with online Zoom consultations for free. It's a blessing that we found this plant and it answered our prayers and answered Kristin's prayers. And you're going to hear from so many more people, their stories directly from their mouth, and how this miracle plant helped them and their families. So thank you everyone for joining us on the Miracle Plant Podcast, Edition 1. And we look forward to seeing you next week to share another amazing story, how this miracle plant helped. Take care, everybody. See you then.